Sandy, and today I'm filming a mid-month wrap-up. In the month of March, I, so far on the 20th of March, have read 18 books, and I'm attempting apparently to read 31 books in March. So I thought I would wrap up the first half of the month, because otherwise that wrap-up's going to be far too big. So I will be doing another wrap-up that you'll see in a couple of weeks, but this is just going to be the first 15 books that I read in the month of March so far. Now, I will say, this is my 6th or something attempt to film this video because I keep getting interrupted. I open the window because it's really warm in here, and of course my neighbours across the street have decided to have a very loud conversation outside, as in yelling at each other, and then somebody's dog started barking, and then somebody got a delivery of food, so they're standing talking to the delivery guy. I'm just at the point where I'm like, can everybody shut up so I can film this video? But anyway, I'm just going to get straight into the books because I feel like this is going to be a long video and I just want to get it over with. The first thing I read was Her Fierce Creatures by Mary Lewis. This is the finale in the Supernatural Sisters series, which, try saying that, honestly. This is the series back here I always point it out because it's one of my favourite series of all time. This is the final book in that series, and it is an epic conclusion with the big bad battle and everything, and it is fantastic. It broke me, completely broke my heart. I love everything Maria writes, honestly. I'm so excited to go back and reread this all because I want to do a vlog where I read the whole series and do sort of in-depth thoughts and spoilers and things. But this series, basically, each book follows a different character, except obviously this one follows multiple characters, and the Who's Afraid trilogy just follows Tommy. So this sums it up pretty well. You've got Werewolf Tommy Grayson, Sprite Dreckley Jones, Gravose or Casper von Klitzing, who is a medium, and Banshee Sadie Burke. And these 4 women are sort of entrenched in this prophecy that lives in this creature government, that these babies will be born and it will bring down the government and there will be a revolt. So they are all entrenched in it in some way, each in a different way, and it is them all sort of coming together to go against this government because they're obviously corrupt. It's sort of that dystopian lean of like, this government makes it better for everybody, but actually they're actually really corrupt. I think this is a fantastic series. I can't wait to do my in-depth read of it. I cannot say enough about the series. There's too much for me to say in this wrap-up. It will just be a Maria Lewis like spiel. Next up, I finally caved and read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is a Lisa pick, a Lisa fave. This is one that Lisa has been shouting from the rooftops about. I swear Lisa single-handedly got this thing picked up by a publisher. From all the yelling she was there about it. Well, maybe not single-handedly, because Travis Baldree does a fantastic job in this book. It is a cosy fantasy, and I don't know if you have heard me say this at all, not a million times or anything, but I am not a fantasy reader. I do not read fantasy. I do not enjoy fantasy very much. This is my sort of fantasy shelves, and you'll notice it's sort of like paranormal. It's all paranormal stuff, not really like fantasy. I don't do fantasy. There are a couple of series that I love, but generally fantasy is not for me. Common Legends and Lattes. This is about an orc named Viv who has done the mercenary thing, has done the big scary orc fighting for money thing, and she just wants to settle down and open a coffee shop. That is it. That is the story. Well, there are things that happen along the way, but this follows Viv as she finds this town, this village that she wants to live in. She finds a premises that is basically gutted, and she finds a friend, or well, he's actually a woodworker, a shipbuilder, to help rebuild this place, basically to make it into the coffee shop that she wants. And she hires on someone to help as an assistant. She also then hires this is it a mousekin? I can't remember what he is. but he is like he's a little mouse. I'll show you. I will show you. So there's Viv, there's the assistant, and then this little guy over here. Can you see him? Can you see him there? He cooks. Basically, he is a little baker chef, and he makes cinnamon rolls and thimblets and other little tasty treats for people to have in the coffee shop. And it is just them having this cozy little thing. There are other things going on that make it kind of more fantasy, but really it's just about Viv's coffee shop, and there's no way to really describe this book, but I just loved it. Me and my friends, like several of my friends, read this within the same week, and all of us just loved it. It was exactly what I needed after I'd read book after book after book after book that ripped my heart out. This is exactly what I needed. It just got right to my heart, and I absolutely adored it. The next book I read was The American Roommate Experiment by Lena Armas. This book I listened to the audio as I read along, and it was so weird because, listen, the audio is great for this. The audio is fantastic. However, the guy, the male audio book narrator that is voicing Lucas, it sounds like he's talking right in your ear, like very quietly and sensually, and like very much like he is talking into your ear. Like, that's how it feels, and it's so weird. I don't know how I feel about it, but it was just weird. And somebody else listened to the audiobook and was like, it's kind of weird. It's not bad, but it's just weird, you know? Anywho, so this book is about Rosie Graham, who has given up her job and has decided to take on her hobby as writing as a career. She's published one book, nobody knows about it, and has decided to write another one. Rosie is the best friend of Lena, who is the main character in The Spanish Love Deception. And Lena is away on her honeymoon, and Rosie's the roof collapses, and basically the upstairs neighbour floods, it collapses in, so she can't stay there. So she knows that Lena's going to be away for the duration of the repairs, and she has a key, so she goes to Lena's house, and the first night she's there, somebody tries to get in the door, and she's like, oh crap, I'm going to call the police. Like, she's like on the phone to the police and everything. It's really awkward. And it's actually Lucas, who is Lena's cousin, who Lena has said can come and stay at her house while he is having a vacation in New York. And Rosie is embarrassed, and she's like, I am so sorry. But of course, Lucas is a gentleman, and he's like, no, you stay, I'll go. It's fine. So Rosie stays for the night. She's like, I'll be out tomorrow, just like, he's like, yeah, we'll sort something out tomorrow, it's fine. So it's a romance. It's a forced proximity, fake dating. They end up staying in the same flat together. It's a one bedroom. No, it's not even a one bedroom, it's a studio. So there's no walls except for the bathroom. So they end up staying together. He sleeps on the couch, she sleeps on the bed. Forced proximity. They fake date because she's trying to get inspiration for her next book, because she's got writer's block, and she says to him about planning on going on these fake dates to try and get ideas flowing. He's like, well, why don't I fake date you? He's like, look, there's nothing going to happen. I go back to Spain in a few months. You need to get your book written. We'll go to fake dates. It'll be fine. We can go through the whole thing. I'm aware of it. You're aware of it. You don't need to feel guilty about it. We're not going to fall in love with each other. Famous last words. So of course they fall in love with each other. And it goes through them going on these dates, and they're both kind of pushing against the idea that the other one is interested in them as well. And because you're getting it from both their perspectives, you can see it's less of a miscommunication, more of deep-seated fear. So Lucas has injured himself. He used to be a pro surfer, and he's injured himself and not told anybody, not told his family, that he is pretty much no longer going to be able to work. And he is really, really struggling with his mental health with this, and doesn't have anybody that he can really go to or open up to. It's very much a thing where he feels like he can't go to therapy and things like that, and that is really holding him back. Rosie, on the other hand, is just a person that feels like love is not meant for her. So every date she's been on has been horrible, and she just feels like it's not going to happen. She is never going to find anybody, and she has kind of accepted that. And it's just getting on with her life, living her life. And that's how they kind of plod along together. There's great discussion into Lucas and his mental health. There's great discussion into the way that they, like, I just love these characters. This again made me sob. These characters deserve so much. I love, see, this is one of those ones where once you read the book and you get to know what all these little bits are for. I love this so much. I love this so much more than the Spanish Love Deception. And I did like the Spanish Love Deception, but this was just better. So if you even slightly enjoyed the Spanish Love Deception, please read this. It is much better. That's all I'm going to say, but I could moon about these two for hours. The next thing I read was A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is set after or just at the end of the events of the first book, which is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And it follows the perspective of Lovelace. And if you've read the book, you will know what happens to Lovelace. If you have not, you will obviously not know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so mild spoilers ahead, so listen at your convenience. If not, please just skip forward. But yeah, basically this follows Lovelace as she's kind of getting used to her new life, and also goes back and forward to show Pepper's history and how she got to where she is, because she was bred as a clone on a slave planet, where her and her clone sisters were used to clear junk, basically. It was a junkyard, and they like sorted and cleaned and refurbished parts for the other people on the planet, and they were only fed like liquid food, and they were like genetically modified, and they were just treated horribly. And one day she escapes and finds this ship and builds it to escape. We know that from The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, but this actually shows you her story of that journey, and then how she gets off planet and what happens afterwards when she meets Lovelace, or when she takes on Lovelace, and them then, while adapting to Lovelace's new sort of body and things like that, then also Pepper's hunt for the AI and the ship that she, escaped on. And it's just such a lovely story. I really, really enjoyed this. I did not like Lovelace. I cannot remember what name she takes. Cedra. Cedra was whiny and a child, and that's understandable because from the start she's basically brand new and she's getting used to everything, and she's not used to having certain things, and I understand why she's whiny, but dear God, she's whiny. And Pepper, I love Pepper. Pepper's my favourite character so far in this entire franchise. Hopefully I will be reading the next one soon. Talking of whiny, the next thing I read was You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. This was bought for me by Chloe at Persistent Bookworm, and persistent she is because it is her goal to get everybody to read this book, and I can see why. This is about a couple who are getting married in 3 months, and they hate each other, and yet they are ploughing on with this marriage because whoever backs out has to pay for the wedding. So the bride, Naomi, she comes from a poor family. She's not very well off. She has a job that doesn't pay very well. So if she had to pay for the wedding, it would pretty much bankrupt her. And Nicholas comes from this rich family who are snobs, his mum is awful. Like, his mum is, she is the worst. I hate her. Like, I feel like I should give thanks every day that my mother-in-law is the opposite of this woman. Like, my mother-in-law is an angel, especially compared to this woman. Like, she has opinions, but we all do. She's a strong woman. We love that. But this woman, dear God, she needs to cut the apron strings. And Nicholas really needs to get his shit together. But yeah, she doesn't want to pay for it because she's just, she thinks she's marrying her son. It's ridiculous. One of those, one of those where she's like, she's decided, she does things like she's picked the flowers and she's picked the wedding dress, and it's her wedding basically, which is why Naomi is getting like run off the wall. And these two kind of realise that what they're trying to do to each other, Nicholas and Naomi, but in tormenting each other, they actually learn to get along better and learn what they kind of let go by the wayside and appreciate each other more. It's such a nice, like, it's such a nice story when you actually get to the meat of it. I hated, see, at the start, I was all full on Naomi's side, and I was like, I hate Nicholas, he's, like, awful, his mother's awful, let's, like, get rid of Nicholas. And as you were going through it, it was actually, okay, actually Nicholas is fine, we like Nicholas. Nicholas needs to maybe apologise for a few things, but so does Naomi, because Naomi's been horrible as well. And then suddenly you realise the problem is actually his mother. And a lot of discussion goes around how he allows his mother to treat Naomi, but also how Naomi allows his mother to treat him. She doesn't stand up for him, he doesn't stand up for her. Once they start having each other's backs, it's a much different story. And, you know, he doesn't want to upset his mum, he doesn't want to rock the boat. He needs to sort of reach out more, and Naomi needs to take it down a notch. And I absolutely love these two. I love these two together, and by the end of it, it really, really works as a fantastic story of showing how you should treat your relationships, because there are things that you will just stop doing, and you will suddenly find that years down the line you don't appreciate your partner the same way. I cannot say enough about this. I absolutely adored this. So the next thing I read was actually 3 graphic novels, all of which are on Kindle Unlimited. That was difficult for me to say. And that was the Tea Dragon Society, the Tea Dragon Festival, and the Tea Dragon Tapestry. I read these on Tori's recommendation, and they were all fantastic. It's basically different little stories around this world where tea dragons exist, and these are little dragons that grow tea leaves. So you have, like, there's Earl Grey, there's Rooibos, there's Chamomile, you know, all these different teas, and they're all tea dragons. And there's this small tea dragon society who take care of these tea dragons. There's a little girl in the first one who takes on a tea dragon whose owner has died, because the tea dragons live a lot longer than humans. So she's looking after this tea dragon with the 2 guys who run this society, and they are an interracial, interspecies, interabled couple, and I love it. They used to be mercenaries, and then one of them got injured and now is in a wheelchair, and they retired and found tea dragons and decided to look after the tea dragons, and I love the tea dragons so much. They're so cute. I can't get over it. And then they just have, like, little adventures. So the Tea Dragon Society is basically the main character, whose name I can't remember, discovering and sort of becoming part of the Tea Dragon Society. The second one is about another character who we are introduced to in the first one, who's friends. I think like there's a relationship there with the 2 girls, and she has come from wherever she's from with no memories. She had to have her memories wiped for some reason, and they won't come back, basically. And she has this tapestry. Sorry, this is the third one. I'm totally wrong. The third one. She has this tapestry which has some of her memories on it, and it's basically the story of her gaining some of the memories back, which is just beautiful. Tea Dragon Festival, which is the second one, is basically about the Tea Dragon Festival. So it kind of jumps to before, where you get our 2 guys that run the Tea Dragon Society, and he goes back to the guy that ends up disabled, goes back to his village where there are tea dragons, and they just sort of run wild, and they are trying to find this creature that is putting people to sleep. So in that, they actually find a dragon, like a dragon, not a tea dragon, who was meant to protect the town, and accidentally put him to sleep for 80 years, and the dragon's like, oh my god, like, no. And it's like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it, like, everybody's fine. And then they find this thing, and it turns out to be like some sort of spirit creature that just wants people to appreciate the forest, and they're like, please go away, we don't want to hurt you, we don't want anybody else to hurt you. And then they call in the bounty, and it's like, sorry, it just doesn't exist. I'm sure it went that way. That sort of thing. And I just love them so much. I can't even describe them properly. You just need to go read them. They're on Kindle Unlimited. They're very, very short. They're graphic novels. They're beautiful. I love them so much. And I want a tea dragon. Next up is one of the most beautiful books I own, and that is Wayward by Amelia Hart. I'm terrible with names. Look at that. I have been going on about this sprayed edge. I've been going on about the sprayed edge for so long. It's so beautiful, just the way it goes. This is a story told in 3 perspectives. So we have, I'm going to have to check the inside for this. We have Kate, who is in 2019, who has fled London, fled a horribly, horribly abusive partner and relationship, and gone to this cottage called Wayward Cottage that she's been left by her great aunt, who she has very few memories of. She finds out about it and takes the chance to run, basically. Violet in 1942, who is Kate's aunt, and she is basically, she lives in this big house with her family who's like the lords of the area, and her cousin comes to stay and things happen. It's horrible, trigger warnings all around, and she ends up moving into Wayward Cottage and not going back home, hence why Kate gets it in 2019. Violet herself is big into entomology, and she is just a little firecracker as a kid and then grows up to be this amazing adult. And then you've got Altha in 1619. I think I worked out she has a Geordie accent in the audiobook. Very nice audiobook, very good audiobook. 3 different narrators with the 3 different women. I love it. You can always tell where you are. Altha is in 1619 and she is on trial for witchcraft, and she is the first wayward woman. So the wayward women, it's passed down through the family. So Altha is a descendant or a ancestor of Violet and Kate, and she is on trial for witchcraft, accused of killing someone. And obviously, you know, magic doesn't exist, so she didn't kill him, did she? Did she say it though? Maybe. But yeah, this basically is very much centered around these women, this family, this cottage, and the connection that they have with nature and witchcraft. And there's so much more to it than that. I absolutely adored this, and I really, really recommend it. There are a lot of trigger warnings though, because there's a lot of abusive relationships and abusive actions towards women in this, so please do check that before you read it. The main character is very much in a situation that is, you know, your heart's in your throat a lot of the time, so just be careful, and the author does not hold back. Next, I finally finished the last book of the Cassandra Clare novels that I have not read, and that is the Shadowhunters Codex by Cassandra Clare and Joshua Lewis. I have every other published book of the Shadowhunter world, and this is the last one I need to read, and I did so. This is basically the handbook that is given to new Shadowhunters, probably out of the Shadowhunter Academy, especially it seems aimed towards new Shadowhunters who go from mortal to Shadowhunter by using the cup. And this is basically like the handbook that is given to them, but Jace gives a copy to Clary in the Mortal Instruments, and this is like basically like a textbook, so you've got 3 different sort of editors in here. So it says, so this is the 27th English edition, 1990, first revision 2002, Alicante, Idris, second revision 2007, Clary Frey, Brooklyn, New York, USA, third revision 2007, Simon Lewis, book stolen from Clary while she tries to study, Funkytown, USA. Fourth revision 2007, Jace Wayland gives book back to Clary and glares at Simon, USA. So you've got little annotations all the way through this book, and of course Clary's art and things as well. Like, you've got beautiful art through all this book, and it's basically like an instruction manual but with sassy commentary, and I loved it. That's pretty much all I can say about it. Most of it you know if you read the books already, like, but this just gives like that extra thing. It's like the Tales of the Peculiar for the Miss Peregrine's book. It's kind of like that, because obviously that exists in the world, but he's written it as a book for Ransom Riggs. I mean, for the Miss Peregrines. I thought I was going to say Miss Peregrine's written it, but she's not. It's Ransom Riggs. But yeah, this is basically that. I really enjoyed this. It was nice to get that sort of scientific view of the Shadowhunter world, and it's just nice to finally finish the collection. All I'm waiting on now is the whichever it is, Black Book of the something, the third in the Elves Curses, and that'll be me complete. The next book I read was a reread, and that is The Son of Neptune by Rick Riordan. We all know by now that I absolutely love the Percyverse. I love Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I love the Heroes of Olympus. That's what this is. This is the second book in the Heroes of Olympus, and this follows Percy again, along with new characters Frank and Hazel. And Percy basically wakes up and doesn't know who he is. Doesn't know, kind of knows where he is. And all I can remember is that he is a demigod and he has a girlfriend named Annabeth. And it's him getting to this particular place. I'm not going to spoil it. And the missions that he has to, the quest that he has to go on. But yeah, it's the second book in the second series of the sort of Percy Jackson world. So I don't want to say too much and spoil too much, because I know I've got a few friends who are at the point of getting through Percy Jackson at the moment. Many of whom who may have read Percy Jackson but have not read the Heroes of Olympus. But this is pretty much the setup for Mark of Athenium, which is the next book, which is where the action really kicks off. And I just love this. This has so much in it that I absolutely love. Hazel is a fantastic character and just builds up to having like a secretive background that you then get to find out about, obviously, in the later books. Frank is an open book, but also has his secrets, and he's such a sweetheart. I love Frank, he's so cute, I want to squish his face. And of course, Percy, just being Percy, he is gallant and valiant and just the best guy. He sees people that everybody's putting down and he's like, I'm gonna be friends with you. And he's just, I love Percy so much. This book, I remember I saw a meme about people talking about like The Lost Hero, and people being like, where the hell's Percy? And Rick Riordan being like, just give it a minute. Here's Percy. We know you want him. But yeah, I am still looking forward to continuing this. It is a reread, but I still love it. And there is another Percy Jackson book, Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods, coming out in the next 6 months or so. I can't remember when. And we're also getting a Solangelo book. And if you don't know the Solangelo ship, then you've not read this series. Please do it, because it will be so good. Okay, I'm going to muddle the order of the last ones. Just because I don't want to end on one that was kind of meh, and there are two books that I want to talk about together, so I'm just going to muddle the order at the end there. So next I'm going to talk about To Be Taught Fortunate by Becky Chambers. This is the book that was kind of meh. It's the most recent, it's like the 15th book I read this month, and it is fine. It's good. It's good writing by Becky Chambers. It is about these astronauts who have gone out to look at other planets. Basically, they are a research team of scientists who go out to other planets and they look at all the animals and plants and creatures and things like that, and classify them and take samples, or not take samples, but like video samples and like stuff like that to figure out what the life is like on other planets. But they're not allowed to like interact because we don't want to like kill everything off. And it's basically these 4 planets. I think it's 4 planets that they go to, and it follows Ariadne, who is the engineer, and she talks about they have this patch that basically gives them drugs into their system, which allows them to become better equipped for the world they're about to go on. And then when they stop wearing the patches, it wears off. So like in the first one, they have diamond skin because there's not much light, so they can reflect the light. Very Twilight, I love it. And then there's one where they have to build like muscle mass because the gravity is too strong. Things like that. I absolutely love this concept. I feel like this needed to be a full novel. This does also discuss the whole thing of mental health in space, because they are far away from Earth and all of a sudden the news stops coming from Earth and they're like, what's happened? Has everybody died? Have they forgotten about us? What's going on? And they basically feel like they've been abandoned. I mean, they're light years away from home. They only have each other. They at one point get stuck on a planet with these screeching things that they can't get rid of. And the things it does to their mental health, like Ariadne at one point tries to yeet herself into space. So yeah, it is a lot happens for such a small book, but I think because of that it kind of loses its impact. I know it might sound daft, but for me, I feel like this would have been better as a full-length novel. But it's still, Becky Chambers is still really good. Doesn't have any sort of thing to do with any of the other books though. So yeah, this was fine. It was like a 3-star. It's not a bad book. It just didn't grip me the way I hoped. The next 2 books I want to talk about together, and that is It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line and Sinker. These are Tessa Bailey's 2 sort of companion novels. I would definitely advise reading It Happened One Summer before Hook, Line and Sinker. I ended up loving both of them. So What Happened One Summer follows Piper, who is a New York socialite, LA socialite. She's an LA socialite who is famous for being famous. Her dad is a film producer who basically has given her like a trust fund type thing, and she spends her time and money dating guys for 5 minutes and taking Instagram pictures and doing deals with brands where she, like, you know, the type, nepo baby type thing. Yeah, so she doesn't work, she doesn't do anything, she just parties all the time, and then she takes something a step too far, and her stepdad's like, that's it, no, we're not doing this. You are going to go back to where you're from, which is a small fishing village called Westport in Washington, which obviously is like nowhere near LA, and you are going to spend time there with this allowance, making your own money, getting a grip of yourself, basically. So they rock up to this bar, her and her sister Hannah, who decides to go with her, and they rock up to this bar that was owned by their dad before he died, and they're like, cool, we're going to make this bar over, show our stepdad, and go back to being, you know, LA socialites, although our sister does work, but we'll come to that. Then she meets Brendan. Brendan is a fisherman from Westport, and Brendan is basically like, he's the captain of one of the main ships that fishes out of Westport, and he's well respected, and immediately is horrible to Piper. She arrives and he's like, get out. You don't belong here. You're just a vapid little nobody, and you don't have any ability to do any hard work, and we don't want you here, so leave. And Piper's response to that is, hold my beer. So yeah, basically Hannah and Piper decide to stay in the bar and do the bar up. And it's their story of discovering their family that's there, discovering more about their dad, about the village. Piper discovering a lot about herself, because she really, really doesn't think she can do this. And nobody thinks she can do this. And the reason she doesn't think she can do this is because nobody else does. And things like people like Brendan, who just met her and judge her, also really, really affects her. Brendan at one point does realise that what he's done is really, really rude and really, really horrible, so he helps with his crew, but obviously he's away for like 3 days, back for a few days, away for 3 days because of the fishing. And it's really just about these two and how they grow closer and how they fall in love, basically. Brendan is very much an all or nothing man, and Piper's very much a 5 minutes sort of girl, and it's just so incredible to see the way they work together. It's just absolutely fantastic. Like, Piper doesn't want to get attached because nobody ever wants to give her the time, and Brendan is fully ready to give her the time. Unfortunately, Brendan was married to the daughter of one of the, again, prominent fishermen of the town. Every year they have a memorial for her, but she died, and Brendan still feels beholden almost to her. So there's a whole difficult conversation about things like that, and it's just, oh, I really, really enjoyed this. The audiobook was such a good audiobook. I really, really enjoyed this. I think the way so many things were handled is great. There's a couple of bits where I was unsure, like, I don't know, some of the smutty scenes were a bit much, and like a bit much as in like suddenly Brendan becomes sort of talkative in a way that he's not normally, and I don't know, and maybe that's just me, but yeah, you know, it seems like he changes personality, but I suppose some people do. Anywho, I absolutely love this, and I think it's definitely worth a read. If this was a TV show, I'd watch it. I know it's based on Schitt's Creek, or it's like inspired by Schitt's Creek, based on Alexis, but I have never seen Schitt's Creek. I know nothing about it, but if It Happened One Summer was a movie or a TV show, I would watch it. Hook, Line and Sinker is a follow-on from this, so it is probably a few months later, 6 months later, and it is about Hannah, who is Piper's sister. Hannah is a producer of some kind on a film set, and she works with a director that she is totally in love with, but he doesn't even notice her. And they're filming and things go wrong and they need to find someone else to film, and she says, hey, well, what about Westport? And the director's like, yes, it fits my moody artistic vibe. And she's like, cool, let's go Westport. So she's trying to impress him. She's also trying to become a music producer, a music scout almost. Like, she wants to be the kind of person that sets the music for a scene, because we all know that like the music kind of makes the scene, and she is one of those people that always has a playlist ready for everything. Over the past 6 months, while she was in Westport, she became friends with Fox, who is Brendan's number 2. He is his sort of first mate type thing. He's a relief skipper, and he is, you know, again, kind of like with Piper, somebody that nobody will give the time. His dad was a player. He cheated on his mum a lot, and he slept around a lot, and everybody just assumed that Fox would be the same. He grew up with teachers and parents and other people telling him that pretty much all he was good for was a good time. He is a good time guy, and that is all he is. Hannah, on the other hand, very much not like that. And this is very much about Hannah learning, again, about her dad, getting that connection with her dad that she doesn't feel, because she doesn't really know anything about him, but also realising that, obviously these two end up together because it's a romance, but realising that Fox is more than he puts on, and really, really helps Fox to realise that the way people have treated him is not good. Like, the mental health rep in here for Fox is unreal. This book left me crying. You'll have seen it. If you saw my vlog, you'll have seen it left me crying. The way Fox is treated by everybody is unbelievably sad and horrible, and I just want to hug him because he's such a sweet cinnamon bun. Like, nobody takes him seriously, and it's such a shame because he's such a nice, kind, reliable guy. Like, he is the best. I love Fox so much. I like Fox more than I like Brendan, to be perfectly honest. And I'm glad that it is actually confronted, the way that he is treated by his mum. And it is confronted. Him and his mum have a conversation. They air it all out. The healing starts. It is beautiful. I love this so, so much. And I just, like, everybody needs someone like Hannah in their corner, because she really is there for everybody. But that does not mean she's on the sidelines. She is very much a leading lady, and she gets to realise that as well. She always feels like she's on the sidelines. I love this so much. I love this so much. It's such a weird kind of slow burn romance that kind of goes from 0 to 60. It's, I don't know how else to describe it. And the last book is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a book that is very, very interesting. So, basically, our main character, Ryland Grace, wakes up on a spaceship light years from home with 2 dead companions. So, basically, he wakes up, there's 3 beds in this room, this dormitory, and the other 2 people are dead and mummified, basically. And he is alive. He cannot remember his name. He cannot remember why he is there. All he knows is that he is in space and that he liked these 2 people, and he's sad that they are dead. Now, he then has to try and work out why he is there. So you get a sort of mix up of timelines between between Ryland and now, trying to work out what's going on, and then the flashback memories that he has of how he got there. So this is really, really well done. You find out as he does, and it's so confusing at the start, but in a way that it's meant to be. I love this. So basically, he ends up going to space because there is this thing that they are calling astrophage, which, if you know etymology at all, astro meaning sun, phage meaning to eat or to consume, bacteriophage, go after bacteria. It's kind of like an infection, I suppose, almost. They kind of describe it in this almost like an algae. So this is attacking the sun. It's going between the sun and Venus, and it is eating the sun, basically, and bringing down the luminosity of the sun. This does mean that we will get less light, less heat. It will cause an ice age, famine, death, wars, basically the apocalypse. So they get together, like the world kind of stops and gets together, scientists, to figure out what the hell is going on. Ryland is called in because he is an expert in, well, not necessarily an expert in aliens, but he is a biologist who claims that water isn't the only thing that isn't the number one, like, only thing that means there is life, that there could be life that is based on something that is not water. So because this is an unusual life form and it obviously lives on the surface of the sun, they're like, okay, let's get this guy in who thinks it might not be water, and he quickly becomes the expert on this thing. But in his day job, he is in fact a teacher, which is funny because at one point he gets worried about himself because he's like, I like kids. Why do I like kids? I don't like where this is going. I'm a teacher. It's fine. It's really funny. His humour is so funny. It's so very much like Mark Watney, but like kind of reduced. So like he doesn't swear. It's funny. Like he'll say things like "gosh darn," fudge. Like he doesn't swear. It's really, really funny. But yeah, he has ended up on this mission to try and find out why one of the stars in our galaxy doesn't seem to be affected by astrophage. And like, okay, why is this not affected? Can we get it something over to help save the Earth, basically? And while he's there, he also sees that there is another ship, and it's not from Earth. So he knows that he has met another life form. It's basically about him and Rocky, who is this other life form, this alien from another planet called Erid, and them trying to figure out how to, one, survive, and two, stop astrophage because it's affecting Erid's son as well. And this just, the friendship these guys have, the way that they learn to communicate with each other is absolutely fantastic. And the ruthless Strauss, who is the sort of head of the team that are like working to try and find out how to stop astrophage, it's fantastic. It is a long haul book. It's not a cheap and cheerful like one and done. It is a long haul slog. Like I say, you are figuring these things out as he's figuring them out, and it is just fantastically written. I would say I don't like this as much as The Martian, but now I've had some time to sit on it, I really, really enjoyed this and would love to reread it again. I can't wait to reread it again and just get back into Ryland's head. So yeah, well done to Andy Weir. This was a fantastic novel, fantastic follow-up, and the science behind it, once again, was fantastically researched. I really, really enjoyed this. So yeah, that is all the books that I read in the first half of March. As you can see, that's a few books. I've got 45 minutes of footage at the moment, so I'm glad I didn't try to do the entirety of March. I can see books over there that I've read already in the second half of this month that I've just not done this for. So yeah. I will see you in my next video. Thanks very much for watching, and I've done that the wrong way around, so I'm going to say bye.